Hold on, everybody, man. Back on the Man Down podcast, man. I just want to talk about this GOAT criteria. So on my Facebook page, um, the group we have on there where we do a lot of sports debate and all that stuff. Someone posted a question to the group asking what the GOAT criteria was. And I think his motivation for posting it was because um, he asked when can Giannis Antetokounmpo get into the GOAT conversation. If he said if he, I want to say he said if he wins his second ring, does that put him in the GOAT conversation? And he got a little bit frustrated because a lot of people was like, no, that him winning his second ring wouldn't put him in the GOAT conversation. And some examples of that is, just winning rings is not going to put you in the GOAT conversation. Steph won three. He won one by himself, but we certainly didn't just say automatically, oh, now you got two rings and two MVPs, or three rings and two MVPs. Let's put you in the GOAT conversation. Same as KD, he got two rings. They didn't automatically put him in the GOAT conversation. It just don't work like that, right? Shaq didn't get in the GOAT conversation from his rings. Hakeem got two. Two of the hardest rings I seen a superstar get. That didn't put him in the GOAT conversation. So, and everybody got their own different criteria that they're going by, and I think that makes it problematic to have that conversation because everyone values things different, and everybody talking about different things, right? So I'm gonna tell you how I look at it, and it's gonna be real quick, and then if y'all want to come join and come in and talk about it, I'll share the link. Um, as a matter of fact, I'll share the link right now. But yeah, I'm just get mine real quick, and it's not all that crazy deep. And I could go in depth on it, but that'd be another conversation. I just want to be quick with it this time. So first and foremost, for me, the way I look at it, or first let's talk about how MJ actually became a GOAT in a lot of people's eyes. So I want to say no one really was talking about who the greatest of all time was until maybe Kareem. And in the case of Kareem, I mean, he had a crazy good resume. He was a great player as well. Obviously a great player, but as far as what he done, winning at every level, won championships in high school. He won three in college, and then of course he came and won six in the NBA. Um, so that's kind of what helped prepare Kareem into that conversation, right? Now, as a player, he was great, and at the time, he might have been the greatest we've seen. But Kareem was kind of regarded by most as the greatest of all time. So here comes Michael Jordan. Actually, before Mike, you get Magic and Bird, and they did great things in the league as well, but nothing to propel them past Kareem as a player, right? So first and foremost, if you're looking at players to see who's the best, you don't even need the resume to determine who's the best, right? So if I'm better than you as a player and I'm already considered the greatest of all time, like Kareem was, that's the reason why nobody took Bird and Magic and started saying, let's propel him past Kareem. It was still Kareem up until the time Jordan came. What made it so different about Michael Jordan is that he was obviously a better basketball player than Kareem, Magic, Bird, those guys that were both. I mean, he was obviously better on both ends of the floor. So that what automatically that does when you see a player that's that polarizing, that's that good, that great, that unstoppable, that dominant, it brings you to the attention of watching them now. Okay, now you're on GOAT watch. Let's see what you can do with this talent you got. So this talent is greater than what we seen Kareem had. Let's see what you can do with it, right? Because even if you show up and you're better than someone, if you're not able to achieve what they achieve on paper or equal it or exceed it, then it's going to be hard for people to move you past that person. But what Michael Jordan did, he came and was an obvious better basketball player than Kareem, and then he went and shattered his resume on paper. I mean, he really went and shattered the resume. Of course, if you look at the obvious thing, the rings, they both got 6. The difference between those 6 rings that Kareem got and the 6 ring that MJ got is that Kareem got his 6 rings, and only 3 of them was he the best player on that team and led the team. The other 3 he got, he went to the Lakers and he was a shell of himself, just a almost a role player. You could say he was the second best, but I think Worthy kind of really was. And Kareem was like, just along for the ride, kind of like how, I don't know, maybe similar to Shaq when he was with Wade. Similar, not the same, but but MJ, he propelled his team in all 6 of those rings, got the Finals MVP. That's a good point. Mascot said Kareem got 2 Finals MVPs, not 3. Okay, all right, so that's even less than what I thought. MJ was the Finals MVP, and all 6 of his propelled his team, led it in score. And then so that's the difference between their 6 rings, and then you add on the fact that MJ was such a great defender, defensive player of the year, steals champion, 10 scoring titles. So his resume just, the gold medals he got with ease. You start adding things like that, and the paper resume for MJ exceeds Kareem's, even though Kareem's resume is great. And then Michael Jordan also exceeded Kareem as a player, right? For that reason, we move Michael Jordan past Kareem. And then the icing on the cake is the things that Michael Jordan did off the court that made him such a great player on another level than everybody else, man. He started the shoe game and the endorsement game for the players, and the marketing, the imagery, the taking the league overseas, slam dunk champion. All these things just took him to. It raised the bar so high for players. It made him pretty much the gold standard. So moving forward, the way MJ leapfrog Kareem in that discussion, if someone's going to leapfrog MJ, the bar is set crazy high, right? You got a guy on offense who had as close as the complete game that you can see. And just to avoid debating, I just concede, even though I don't agree with it, I would concede that Michael Jordan wasn't a great 3-point shooter, even though I don't think he was below average or horrible like most people think. I think he was an average 3-point shooter. So, in my opinion, that's not a weakness. A weakness to me is something that a team can exploit, right? Like if you can't shoot, we go under all your screens. Or if you can't shoot, we guard back off 6 feet from you and let you shoot. The weakness can be exploited. I don't remember a team saying, okay, the game plan is to force Jordan to shoot threes. Like there was no way to exploit Michael Jordan on the offensive end other than what Detroit did before he was able to get his first ring, by really roughing him up and beating him up and being real physical. Kind of what we see the league allowing the Celtics to do to KD right now. You know what I mean? So, KD's game is to a level where, all right, the game plan has to be to rough them up, beat them up, and the referees have to help us or allow us to do that, because if they start calling these fouls, then we can't execute our game plan, right? So, but back to MJ. So he passed Kareem, and that was the consensus. No one disagreed with that. Maybe a select few, but people in the media, there was no disputing that Michael Jordan was the greatest person we ever seen. So, just to put a bow on that, what MJ had to do is establish himself as the greatest player we ever seen play the game. But that's not the only thing he had to do. He had to also go and build the resume that was also the best. He did both. and you have to do the first part of it first before you do the resume part. You have to establish yourself as the greatest player we ever seen, um, in order for us to start looking at your resume. I look at it like building a house. If the foundation of that house is establish yourself as the greatest player we ever seen, then building the walls would be your resume, right? So you can't just bring in and saying, hey, this guy got 3 rings. Is he in the GOAT conversation now? And you got a player like Michael Jordan who was complete on offense and defense, and then you bring in a player that's incomplete on offense and in Giannis' case, he's not incomplete on defense. I would say complete player on defense, still emerging, and still incomplete player on offense. How do you compare that with a complete player on both ends that also has the resume? You get what I'm saying? Does that make sense? So you got a complete player on offense and defense and has the resume, but you're going to bring a player to compare to him that's incomplete. So to answer the question, the first thing a person must do to get in the GOAT conversation is to be as complete a player as MJ was. So it was right for us to bring up Kobe Bryant in that conversation because he went and did the work to make himself a complete of a basketball player as MJ. And then some people would say he was even more skilled or even more complete than MJ. Some people would say that, right? As a matter of fact, I think Phil Jackson coached both of them. And he said the only difference between Mike and Kobe was Michael Jordan's hands. He said Mike's hands were so big that was the difference between him and Kobe. So it was right for us to bring Kobe in that conversation because he went and did the work and made himself a complete player to at least match Michael Jordan as a player. So now we start looking at Kobe's resume and we see, okay, man, you match Mike as a player, but your resume kind of fell short, and it fell short for a couple of reasons for Kobe. For one, he came into the league and sat the bench for almost 3 years behind Van Exel and Eddie Jones because Dale Harris, is the Lakers coach, didn't like playing young guys or rookies, right? So that was his first hurdle. His second hurdle was that he just happened to be playing with one of the most dominant big men in Shaquille O'Neal that ever played. So now you playing second fiddle. He had to play a Scottie Pippen role for years and trying to break out of that role as a number 2. He wanted to be the guy. So he had to prove that he could be the guy, right? So his resume is going to take a little bit of a hit because just an opportunity he came into the league with. It was just a little different, right? He didn't come to a team that didn't have nobody, and he was able to just go out there and just shoot 30, 35 shots a game, whether he made or miss, and he could just showcase all his talent. He didn't do that. He had to sit on a bench behind really good veteran all-star guards and Van Exel and Ed Jones. And then even when he got the chance to start, he was playing second fiddle to Shaq. You know, it's an unusual situation for a guy that's that good, right? But it's right for Kobe to be in that conversation, and that's why I have MJ 1, Kareem 2, Kobe 3, right? LeBron, on the other hand, his game never got to the point where it matched Kobe's or MJ's. It just never did. And plus, he was a little bit different. He did it his own way, right? So, but being that he had so many holes in certain parts of his game, well, where he didn't develop a post game until late in his career, and even then, it still doesn't rival or match Kobe's or MJ's. The mid range jump shot he developed late in his career. The 3-point shot he developed late in his career, and even would have been as developed as it is now, he still shoots virtually the same percentage as MJ and Kobe did for their career. So it's not even that spectacular that he developed it, right? He stopped playing defense late in his career. Pretty much after Miami. And then it seemed like early on the media had to pressure him to be the guy to take the last shot like MJ and Kobe did. So everyone was questioning his killer instinct and all of that. So it's so many things that LeBron fell short as a player that he worked on to develop, and even yet and still he still didn't reach Kobe and Mike. So LeBron didn't reach Kobe and Mike as a player. So he went the other route and said, I'm going to build my resume up so big and so good that you have to put me in the conversation. And stat wise and resume wise, that's just what he's doing. But for me, like I said, going forward or going in the beginning, the foundation of the house is how complete, how good you are as a player, right? So I'm going to weigh heavy on that, right? If you didn't develop completely as a player, you can't surpass a guy that was complete unless your resume is just so much better, right? So if you're going to be a guy that's not as good or complete as Mike and you want to pass him, your resume has to be just astronomical, just greater than his. It has, I mean, exponentially greater than his. It can't be close or equal or barely above. You can't play 21 years and think that if I play 21 years, I would have an all-time stat record in scoring and stuff like that. That's not going to do it, because a person with common sense can see through, okay, you played 21 years to get that amount. He played 15 years to get this amount. If I was to actually compare where you was at 15 years versus where he was at 15 years, his is more. Okay, that makes sense to me. But playing 20 years, the only points you're going to get for that is saying that, okay, man, your body held up longer than a person I may compare you with. But that doesn't mean necessarily better at that category. It just doesn't. But that's the backdoor approach to trying to get in the conversation, saying if my stats are so great, you have to consider me, right? So with Giannis being thrown into the conversation just because he got 2 MVPs, a Defensive Player of the Year, and a ring, doesn't make sense. Like you don't get in that conversation when the guy that's currently the GOAT is a complete player on offense and defense. You got to be at least that, right? You got to be at least that. So let me look at these comments, man. His first 3, Pete, I think, was when I thought he was the best. He would have been a better 3-point shooter if he needed to. That part of his game. You talking about Michael Jordan? I agree. Of course, you can't if you take away his weaknesses by explaining it away. Take away his weaknesses by explaining it away. So I think you're talking about Michael Jordan. So you saying 3-point shooting was a weakness? Okay. I mean, there's no point in disputing it. Like I said, I disagree. I think weakness is something you can't do, and it's something that can be exploited. 34% for your career as a 3-point shooter isn't weak to me, because average is around 34 to 35%. That's average. So at the very least, MJ is an average 3-point shooter at the very least. But it's not a weakness. But let's say it is a weakness, then that means everyone who's 35% or below, 3-point shooting is a weakness. So compare that with anybody else that's in the GOAT conversation. I think only if we being real about who's in the GOAT conversation, for most people it's only MJ, Kobe, Kareem, Bird, Magic, LeBron, and it stops there. So Kobe was around 34% from the 3. So was LeBron. Magic might have been worse. Kareem, of course, might have been worse. The only ones that probably was above 34, 35% maybe is Bird, right? So even when you still look at it that way, saying MJ had one weakness, because on defense, he was the best wing defender pretty much his whole career. He didn't have a weakness on defense as a wing defender, and he didn't. And if you're saying his only weakness was 3-point shooting, I take that, because if you compare that with LeBron, then that means LeBron's weakness is also 3-point shooting, but then also LeBron's weakness is free throw shooting, with being at below 70% for his career. Then LeBron weakness also would be defense. Then LeBron weakness would also be killer instinct. And then, it just goes on and on. Post game, mid range. right? So you still looking at if perfection is perfection, the closest wing player to perfection is Kobe and MJ. They was the closest to perfection. I'm not saying they was perfect, but they're the closest to it. So we know we can't have perfect as a standard because nobody can be perfect. So the closest thing to perfect becomes the standard. So we start comparing every wing player, at least the wing players, to the standard, which is MJ. And when you compare every wing player to MJ, Kobe was the closest to him. And then you got everybody else. So I mean, you can call out 3-point shooting as his weakness, but it don't get you too far because you got to apply it across the board. Complete on defense, but can't guard Magic. Hey, um, he was a defensive player of the year and a steals champion, and considered one of the greatest defenders of all time, and the only person to win MVP, scoring title, championship, and defensive player of the year in one season. I seen him get in people's pocket and lock them up 1-on-1. He was the greatest wing shot blocker by far until D Wade came along. I think D Wade actually passed him in shot blocking for a guard. So Michael Jordan's number 2 on that list now. D Wade passed him, right? D Wade was also a good defender. But have we seen good defenders also get their lunch ate? Yeah. Did not Gary Payton have a hole in that glove when he showed up to LA getting cooked? Yeah. Was Scottie Pippen a great defender? Yes. When he went to Portland, did Kobe Bryant put him on skates the entire series? Yes. Did Kobe Bryant put him on skates for the dagger when he threw that alley-oop to Shaq? Yeah, he crossed him up. Did Kobe Bryant not cross him up at half court? And I lie to you not, he slid all the way to the scores table and sat down. That's how bad the crossover was. He crossed him up out of bounds. He sat down on the scores table. So, I mean, your argument is very weak to say, oh, he's a great defender, but this guy did X, Y, and Z. All great defenders get their lunch ate sometimes. All great shot blockers get dunked on. Mutombo has been dunked on several times. So is Alonzo Mourning. That don't make them not great shot blockers. Yes, complete. Are you saying MJ was not a great defender? Right. Look, I'm sharing the link. I like reading y'all comments for sure, especially when y'all doing it on YouTube. But y'all can join at any time. The link is there. Marvin, I had seen you had came in early, man. Come back in and tell me what you think. Giannis is not close to the GOAT. 5 years removed from comeback player of the year. I agree. I don't think Giannis is nowhere close to getting in that conversation. And that was the whole point of what I was saying to the guy who posted that and asked a question. Like, when can we put Giannis in the GOAT conversation? When he become a complete player, we'll start there. Right? I mean, because you can't just start trying to build your paper resume and think your paper resume is going to get you in a conversation with a guy who actually established himself as the greatest player we ever seen first, and then start building his resume and just, and solidifying it. Like, you can't take a backdoor approach. You have to go through the same door that Kareem went through and that Mike went through. You have to go through the same door and do it the same way. You cannot not turn yourself into a goodest player as MJ, especially if you play the wing. Like, you get what I'm saying? Like, it'd be a harder conversation to have if you are a center, and it's kind of hard to compare you with who the current greatest is. You get what I'm saying? It's the difference between comparing a welterweight and a heavyweight, right? You're just going about it doing different. Of course, the stats is going to be totally different because one's going to be heavy on the rebounding side and the shot blocking side and scoring side, and his field goal percentage is going to be high because all his points coming in the paint, versus this wing guy that's shooting a lot of jump. You get what I'm saying? So it's hard to compare that. So it would be hard. But when you play on the wing, we already got a standard. The standard is MJ. Kobe was the closest to that standard. right? That's the standard. So it's unfortunate that you got to match yourself up to that. But if the bar is set this high, we can't bring a guy along and then reset the bar lower. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't make sense for the bar to be set at 6-0 in the finals, 6 MVPs, 9 scoring titles, greatest player we ever seen, great jump shooter, great free throw shooter, great defender for his whole career, greatest killer instinct, one at the collegiate level, one at the Olympic level 3 times, right? Like if that's the standard this high, and then we reset it at Giannis or LeBron, then we setting it lower, and then you resetting the GOAT bar at bronze medal in the Olympics, 4 and 6 in the finals, haven't played defense in 7 years, not the greatest killer instinct, had to build a super team to win, lost twice with a super team. You get what I'm saying? Like, how do you go from where Mike has it and put it at where your favorite player is at when it's not that high, when it's a lower bar? Like, I don't know how you do that. How is Bron weakness defense? He wasn't complete on defense. LeBron's weakness is defense because he stopped playing it, not because he wasn't capable of still being a lockdown defender. LeBron's greatest years as a defender was probably starting from his MVP season in Cleveland all the way up to his last season in Miami. That's when LeBron defense was on another level, right? Because he knew he had to play defense, especially playing for Mike Brown in Cleveland because he preached defense. And then when he got to Miami, same thing. Pat Riley and Eric Spoelstra, you can see the guys that play for Miami now. You're going to have to play D. You're going to have to be in shape. And Pat Riley, that's the teams he coached in with the Knicks. You know, so that's the pedigree of Eric Spoelstra and Pat Riley in Miami. You're going to play D. But when LeBron left Miami and went to Cleveland and started playing with K-Love and Kyrie, he decided that being the team's primary scorer, point guard, and primary distributor was more. It was too much energy to spend on offense, and then have to spend that same energy on defense. So he every year he got worse and worse as a defender, not because he couldn't defend, but because he chose to put more energy on offense than defense. Now, if he wasn't chasing those stats, then he would allow maybe Kyrie to be the primary ball handler and distributor, and he would have played off the ball. But LeBron playing off the ball exploits some of his greatest weaknesses on offense, as far as catching, shooting threes, spreading the floor, post up, and all that stuff. Like those are the weakest parts of LeBron game. So it's better for him to have the ball than to be off the ball. But he chose that over defending. You make it sound smart, but MJ shot less than 33 for multiple seasons. Yeah, he had his first 4 seasons in the league when he averaged less than 1 3-point shot a game, right? Less than 1. But let's call it 1 a game, which means in 82 games he shot 82 threes. These guys are shooting 350 threes a game now. Like, people that's not good 3-point shooters are shooting 300 threes a game. You get what I'm saying? So with the years that he shot 18%, if you're shooting 1 3 a game, right? Let's say you come in the game, I just don't shoot threes that much, right? On the average of 1 a game, right? Let's say I shoot that first one and I miss. I'm 0 for 1. 0% for the game, right? Let's say the next game I shoot 2 threes and I make 1. That's 50%, right? So for those 2 games, I shot 50 on one, 0 on the other one, right? You combine it, that's 25%. You get what I'm saying? However, if I'm shooting more threes, I got more opportunity to get a rhythm and to get high. And I might make a couple in a row. That's going to help my percentage the more. And the more I shoot, the more rhythm I get in, the more I make, and it's going to help my percentage. If I'm barely shooting one a game, that means in order for me to shoot a good percentage, I have to make that one that I shoot. Like, I mean, let's be real. But this is also the first 4 years of his career. There was no 3-point shot in college or in the NBA when MJ came out of college. It was new when he was a rookie. It was new. So nobody was thinking about the three like that, especially not MJ. He didn't need to shoot it. So I'm not gonna tax him for his first 4 years shooting. I think 20%, 18% from the three. Yeah, he shot 20%, 18% his first 4 years, and then he got better at it. And he got a couple of years he shot 50% from the three. He got a year he shot 42%. He got a year where he shot 38%. Right. So those years that you got him shooting 18, he also got years where he shot 40 and above, right? Which helps offset. And then for his career, 34% or close to 35%, which is average. So, I mean, you want to take his whole career accountability and like determine, was MJ a good 3-point shooter or not? Well, the 4 years he shot 18%, 100% no. Right? Circumstances to why the answer is no. I won't get into those circumstances because they sound like excuses, but let's just say he wasn't a good 3-point shooter his first 4 years. But if you're going to say that, then you have to say the years where he actually shot well, that he was a great free throw shooter, 3-point shooter. I mean, if he's shooting 50% for a season and 42% for a season, you got to say he was a great 3-point shooter, regardless of what the circumstances was. Right. So, I mean, if you call it like you see it both ways, and then it'd be good and it'd be fair, and it doesn't sound like that you're trying to just push a narrative, whether it's true or not. You just want to make the point that he couldn't shoot threes. I mean, we got to be grown ups about it and call a spade a spade. I mean, let's at least do that, right? And still couldn't guard Magic, but that's complete. Yeah, he was a complete defender. I don't know what else to tell you. Like, he was a good on the ball defender. He was a good defender at the rim with shot blocking, whether it was one-on-one shot blocking or help defense. He was good on ball and off ball steals. He was fast, and if he had to guard somebody like Reggie Miller, he was good chasing him off screens as well. I don't know what else to do, man. I don't know what else to put it. Like, you're telling me, yeah, he did all this good stuff as a defender. However, there was this one series where Scottie Pippen guard Magic in the finals. So that means that MJ wasn't a good defender. Like, come on, man. Come on, man. Be a grown up, man. Come on, be a grown up. Seriously. Oh, but Magic was switched on by Pippen. So that means MJ wasn't a good defender. All right, cool. You can literally say that about every good defender. Like, literally. Dennis Rodman was switched. He tried to guard MJ. Dennis Rodman was switched off MJ in those series. Does that make him not a good defender? I mean, it's kind of hard to have. It's kind of hard to use a reason to come to a conclusion about a player if I can't use that reason and apply it across the board to everybody. Right. So for you, Facebook user, because I can't see your name because you're not on YouTube, but for you, if you're telling me Mike wasn't a complete defender, right? Because by what you're saying, he couldn't guard Magic. I don't know if you can say he couldn't guard Magic. Magic was 6'9" and a little heavier than Mike. So if they needed to put a bigger guy on him, it's a good strategy, but it ain't like, and a lot of, and another thing, sometimes with Mike being the primary scorer for the Bulls, and by primary, I'm that's even an understatement, because his second best guy was only giving him 15 a game at that time, which was Pippen, right? Try giving these guys now only 15 a game from their second guy. Like, most guys need 20, like Giannis. he need 20 to 25 from Middleton. Like you need 25 from your second guy. Kyrie was giving LeBron almost 40 in the finals against the Warriors. AD gave LeBron 30 in their run. Wade gave LeBron another 25. Like these guys now, your number two got to be just as good as Kobe. Like you're the best player, but your number two is on Kobe level as a scorer, right? MJ didn't have that for number two. His number two was Pippen, and he gave him a modest 15, 17 points, right? So Michael Jordan was carrying a heavy load on offense for scoring. So it would be stretches. It was good that he had another guy like Pippen that can help him on the defensive end, because it would be stretches, and you can attest to this if you look up some of the highlights online and just hear some of those conversations between Pippen and Jordan in the huddle, right? In the huddle, you would hear MJ saying, "Hey, I need a breather, so take the defensive assignment while I they will breathe." Or he'd be like, "Hey, I'm gonna go nuts on the scoring end. I got a mismatch. I'm gonna go nuts, right? So you take so and so for about 2 or 3 minutes," and that's good leadership, right? So whatever the reason why they switched off on Magic, I mean, I'm remembering that season and that series. It ain't like Magic came down and was just unreal and dropped 40 and 50. Like he wasn't doing that. he had a back down game, and he was 6'9", and it probably was better to put the taller, heavier Scottie Pippen on him to kind of neutralize that, right? It's not saying that MJ can't guard Magic. MJ can guard it, but let's just take your words. He can't guard Magic, right? So if we apply that across the board, and I don't know, let's take I don't know, Giannis, and I can pick any series where Giannis wasn't guarding a certain player. Am I really going to use that to say he's not a complete player on defense? It's just nonsense, man. It's really, I mean, that's really nonsense. Really nonsense, man. What data are you using to say LeBron is a great defender? Who that question for? That question for me? I don't know. I think that question is for Ronald. Yeah, I don't know, Ronald. I mean, I would get. I mean, he did make second team. I don't know if he made first team, but he made second and third team all defense a couple of times. I mean, he don't have no steal champion or no block champion or no defensive player of the year, but we know Brown was a good defender. We know he's still a good defender when he locks in. The only thing I said is he stopped defending. And that wasn't because he couldn't. It was because, he would have been too tired because he was doing so much on offense. But he didn't have to do all that on offense. He did all that on offense because he wanted to. He didn't have to be the point forward for that squad. But it's easier to utilize his passing skills that come natural to him than it is for him to get in the lab and really become a great player off the ball and really become a great shooter. It was just easy for him to. I'd rather have the ball in my hand and come downhill with a head full of steam like a freight train, and then use my great passing skills or my scoring skills driving to the hole. And it's a good strategy. Like if I was 6'8", 6'9", and 260 and fast like that and can jump like that, it's very hard for you to want to do anything else. I mean, it's hard to do that, man. Like you can get to the hole almost anytime you want to. But when you're such a great athlete and you have those great attributes to you, man, it takes a lot. I mean, it takes a lot for you to say Let me go develop this area of my game. And that's what Westbrook is running into right now. He was able to become an all-star and even get an MVP in his league by just being fast and jumping high and hitting a bunch of layups, and every now and then hitting a jumper because people was backing 6 feet off of him. Right now, he's not the fastest, and he's not, his athleticism has gone down a little bit. He can still jump up and get a dunk every now and then. He can even dunk on a person, but when he was in his prime, he could do it for 4 quarters for 82 games a season plus playoffs. Now he can only do it every now and then, right? So now how do you dominate? He never developed the type of skill that Kyrie, Steph Curry, or Dame Lillard has. Because when Steph is not the fastest no more, he still go be able to knock down a 3 on anybody. And he can have somebody like Jordan Poole be the young buck and do all this running around, and I can still get you the same amount of points I was getting before by playing off the ball, catch and shoot. Like it's a difference. So even Kyrie, as skilled as he is and as good as of a shooter he is, even when he slows down, his game is going to change drastically because he spends a lot of energy to get his shots. A lot, right? So Steph is gonna last longer than all them dudes, man, because he has an end game. He has a game that can work for an old man, and he can still be a starter, right? His worst case scenario, he could be what Ray Allen was in Boston, run around screens and catch and shoot. Worst case scenario. Kyrie got a little bit more to his game, and it's a little bit more work for him to do what he got to do. So it might be different. But Russ, I mean, once his athleticism is gone, he ain't got nothing else. He not gonna D you up. He not very smart. It ain't like, it ain't like he could be a distribution system like Stockton. He can't shoot. It's gonna be a wrap for him. And that's kind of how it's gonna be for Giannis too, even though he is developing that 3, but he got to be wide open to hit it. He don't got killer instincts, but shoots a better percentage in clutch shots. So how does he not have a killer instinct? See, this you not listening again. So what I said is the knock on him early on was he didn't have the killer instinct, and the media had to talk about him for years, starting with that Maverick series. The media had to talk about him. You need to develop this. You need to have a post game. You need to be able to play off the ball. You need to have a killer instinct. And they kept pressuring LeBron until he was like, okay, I'll take the last shot. Because before he was saying, look, man, that's not how I was coached. I'm going to make the right play every time. I'm going to make the right pass. That's what we were saying. Everybody was like, well, Kobe wouldn't do that. MJ wouldn't do that, right? So that was the knock on LeBron early. The killer instinct is not there like it is for Jordan and Kobe. We wanted LeBron to behave like Kobe and Jordan when it came to those clutch shots, right? So he started doing it. And when he started doing it, he started making some, right? But it took a lot of pressure to do that. And it took a lot of pressure for him to call Hakeem and say, hey, man, help me with my post game. Because he didn't have one. Like when Dallas took away his dribble drive because they was switching every screen, they didn't care who they switched on. Well, it was Jason Terry, Jason Kidd, even JJ Barrera switched on them. They didn't care who they switched. And then once he made the drive, they wasn't really doubling. Like the double wasn't coming from the shooters. It was just rotation from Tyson Chandler being 7-3 at the rim. And if he was able to get to the hole, because what was hard about him getting there is because once they switched those screens, they wasn't coming all the way out on LeBron. They was backing up into the paint and daring him to shoot the 3 or the jump shot. And LeBron didn't want to shoot it because he didn't have that jump shot. So even though the guard would be backed off 6 feet on LeBron, he would still try to drive to the hole. Once he got there, Tyson Chandler was there waiting on him. So yeah, he didn't have a killer instinct. Well, so the media was saying, and he had to develop that. It came natural to other guys. And you're right. That clutch side stat that they're using is manipulated slightly. Um, I think the last time I seen them use that stat, it was a shot that took the lead with 10 or more seconds left on the clock, right? And we all know clutch goes beyond taking a lead in the last 10 seconds. It can be the last 30 seconds of a clutch shot. It could be a shot to tie. You could be down 3. It can be a shot to cut it to 1, right? It could be at 2 minutes left in the game, right? We know how important it is to end quarters because we're watching this Brooklyn Celtics game. Brooklyn goes up by 17 in the first quarter, and then with the last minute in the quarter, they gave up too many points. Same thing second quarter. Like the Brooklyn Nets consistently lose the quarter with the last minute or two, right? All the progress they made during the quarter, the last minute or two, they lose it. So we know clutch can be at any point in the game. If a team goes on the run, your superstar come down and hit a clutch shot, boom, stop the run, stop the bleeding. So clutch can be at any moment. And when they use that stat, they use that stat of when they use that stat of last 10 seconds of a game to take the lead, and they say that's clutch. you just erase all the other clutch moments that an athlete can have on the basketball court, man. That like the last 10 seconds when you about to take the lead is not the only clutch shot you can hit. It's just not, man. But that was a clever way for them to kind of use statistics to make a point that we know just by observation is not even true. Like we know we've not seen nobody as clutch as Michael Jordan. Like we know that. is it even elementary to even try to use that little fake stat? X-Man, what's up, man?
Hey,
What's going on?
which part do we need to start off? The part of why MJ's the GOAT, or the whole thing about LeBron?
You can start where you want to, man.
Well,
Well,
okay.
did you see the beginning?
I didn't. I had just got here like 4 or 5
Okay.
minutes ago.
So this started because in our Facebook group, one of the guy one of my friends asked if Giannis wins a ring this year, can we put him in the GOAT conversation? And I told him, well, the current GOAT is a complete player on both ends of the floor and also has the resume. It would be disrespectful for any player that is not as complete, at least equal as complete on both ends of the floor, to even be in the conversation. Like you, like if you skip being a complete player and able to enter the conversation from the back door of just building a resume, that's disrespectful because MJ didn't do it that way. MJ established himself as the greatest player first, and then he built the resume to solidify what we already knew about him. Like, you get what I'm saying? From
Yeah.
observation, if I'm looking from observation standpoint, I'm looking at you as the greatest player. You have to give me the bullets to boldly proclaim that you're the greatest. And MJ did that. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah. Quick question first. Do you have the link to that Facebook group, or is that private? Is that a private Facebook group?
No, it's not private at all, man. You go on there, man down. It's a just man down Facebook group.
Okay.
Yeah, come in there, join it, man.
Yeah.
We debating there every day. Join it right now, as a matter of fact.
Of course. Yeah. So the issue with people hate. I mean, just to be honest, I think the thing is that people hate that Michael Jordan, he unintentionally or he inadvertently fucked the entire GO conversation up,
Yeah,
because it's not really a conversation anymore. You know, it's really more. See, it's supposed to be a conversation. The NBA's entire identity is based, unlike most sports, NBA's entire identity is based off of debates like this. Who's the best small forward? Who's the best power forward? Who's the best scorer? Who's the best defender? So who's the greatest of all time is like the golden standard of that NBA identity. That to the point that if you take it away, it almost doesn't even exist anymore. You know,
Yeah.
you can trace it back to the '60s when it was like a whole Will Chamberlain versus Bill Russell argument. Is it about individual accolades, or is it about, you know, leading your team to victory, to championship victory? It started there. Do you see the Kareem and the Dr. J and the Larry Bird and Magic thing going on? But then Michael Jordan pops up, and then he just turns he fucks the whole argument up because he's like, well, why can't you just do both? Okay,
Exactly.
why can I just be dominant on offense and defense? Why can't I just be a super freakish athlete and have incredible skills?
Exactly.
Why can I have all these individual accolades and win chips? Why can I be
Exactly.
elite? Why can I also be in the lead of these chips and be in the finals MVP for all these chips
Yeah.
and put up these historic finals numbers? Ta-da!
Yep.
There you go.
Yep.
There's no
And watch me do all that in 13 years.
right.
Well, 15 if you include the Wizard,
Mhm.
but watch me do all that in 15
11
years.
because he missed two of those seasons were completely
He
short.
he did miss one to the broken foot, and one he came back out of retirement with 17 games before the playoffs. Yeah, so I mean, you can say 13, you can say 15. I'm good with either way, but I mean, watch me do all this within 15 years and quit twice. Watch me three-peat twice. Why? I mean, you know, it's just great. Watch me play 82 games like 8, 9, 10 times.
9 or 10 times out of
Like,
my 11 full seasons. 10 of my 11
like,
full seasons, I'm playing all 82 games.
Like he checked all the boxes. Like we got great players now. Like say for instance, Kawhi. He plays both ends of the floor, but the knock on him is that the dude load management. You know, he missed games. You know what I'm saying? He don't play all 82. You get what I'm saying? Then you got people like Giannis. Okay, he plays defense. You know, he's great on offense, but you know he can't shoot. And you know he got Middleton to be his closer. So you know at some point he's the number one, but you know he's more like a Scottie Pippen when you really look at it, because Middleton is the guy that takes the jump shots and takes the last shots and takes the clutch shots. You know, it's just weird. And then you got LeBron as this great athlete, but not so much on the skills when it comes to shooting and things of that nature. And then he stopped playing defense for a while. Right. And then you got Michael Jordan, who is all of that. He plays all the games. He's great on offense and defense. He can shoot. He's a freak athlete. I mean, we talking about this dude. He ran a 4.3. He still got the highest vertical at the combine at 48 inches, tied with Will Chamberlain. Like you look at all.
Well.
Yeah, it's crazy. And then you look at a guy who's that freak of an athlete and that freak of a nature, also got in the gym and became the most technically sound basketball player to ever play on the wing.
Yes. And what so the thing with Giannis is he had the same situation as LeBron have. If you watch LeBron earlier career, you can see the problem was that he was always completely behind. Like what LeBron took LeBron years to do, MJ was doing a lot of that from the jump. You see?
What you mean?
Like, okay, so for example, when MJ first got into the NBA as a rookie, he was already scoring like 28. He averaged 28 on like 51% shooting. And he led the league in points, but he didn't get the scoring title because he came like second in like points per game. Because
I did a video on it.
Right. Yeah. So LeBron he wasn't really scoring 25 or more as a rookie, and he was scoring inefficiently. In fact, he was scoring like in the low to mid 40s, like for a big portion of the 2000s. So it took him a while to get to that whole like high efficiency part. And then when you take into also the count that he didn't make it was taking him a while to get defensive, like to get the elite on the defensive end. Like early on, he was trying from the beginning, but he just didn't have a defensive IQ at first. So it took him a while to develop that. And then, of course, it got worse because even after he developed it, he started getting lazy during the second stint with the Cavs. So, and then so it's like that type of stuff. Like, and then, like I said, his first two finals, people break up 2011. People seem to skip 2007 too. He didn't perform great individually. So in his first two finals, he was already performing poorly in the biggest stage of them all. MJ from the jump was already, once he made to the final, he's like, this is my time. I'm going to perform my ass off.
Yeah.
Right? It took LeBron, like I said, like three tries before he finally got his mind right and figured out how to perform in the finals. So LeBron was already behind. Like so if anybody was tracking that, you can see he was already behind. Like he would have a lot to catching up to do. And
which is why he felt the need to leave Cleveland and go to Miami and say, all right, man, I'm at year 7. I still ain't got no ring yet.
Right.
And and I'm trying to get to that GOAT level. I'm chasing that ghost in Chicago. So I just got to do what I got to do to get a ring. And it's the same thing that Kevin Durant did. He was like, man, I just got to get a ring
Yeah,
and get that
you know
monkey off my back.
what's funny about what's interesting about that? I think unintentionally, I think going to the Miami Heat was probably the best and worst thing that ever happened to him. Because if he didn't go to Miami Heat, 2011 probably wouldn't have happened. Because people don't notice in 2009 he was favored against the Orlando Magic. They were heavy
Right.
favorites, and
Heavy
they
favorites, yeah.
lost. And
That
then
was the year
2000,
that was 66-16, right?
yep. And in 2010 they were heavy favorites against the Boston Celtics. Now they weren't favored 2 years ago in 2008, but after 09 and 2010 with Kevin Garnett constantly getting injured and the players getting older in the mid 30s,
Yeah.
and the Cavs had a lot of mileage on them, so they were heavy favorites and they were supposed to win, but they lost again in 6 games.
Yeah.
Most people don't remember that because, like I said, most people aren't thinking about like the favoritism. Plus, the Cavs probably had like a lot of role players. It wasn't like a bunch of flat out stars that you can name. So it was
Yeah.
easier for LeBron to get away with that. Like it was hard. It was hard for people to hold him accountable because the media would just be like, "Oh, well, who was on his team?" You know what I'm saying? Like you couldn't name any big names. So when he
Right.
went to the Miami Heat, that immediately exposed him because he actually had two big names on his team, Chris Bosh and D Wade. And so when he failed, there really was no space for LeBron fans to talk him out of.
Yeah.
There was no
You
way
know,
to
they
get around that one.
that Miami team got off to such a slow start.
Yeah,
That first,
they,
because the first game was against Boston and Boston beat them, and Miami didn't look good. Like,
yeah,
it's the same. It's the same way I felt about the Brooklyn Nets all this season.
mm-hmm.
Like, if you was in the group this whole year, you would see me posting in there all the time saying, I just don't like the flow of the Brooklyn Nets, and Steve Nash got to figure it out. I just don't like the flow. I never liked it. But when Kyrie came back, and it was Kyrie and Steph, I mean not Steph, but KD there, and then after the Harden trade, and when they got Drummond and Steph Curry, there was times where I could see, okay, now I see that there's more movement on offense, and Steve Nash has actually got some sets that I like.
Right.
But it was just too late. It's just too late in the season for them to start clicking, and they never really clicked before the playoffs started. We just expected them to, I mean, what I really didn't foresee happening was the league allowing the Celtics to play 90s style defense on Kevin Durant without a whistle. Like, you rarely see the league's best player or the league's second best player or the league's third best player not get the benefit of the whistle.
Yeah, they've been changing a little bit recently. I know they had a no flop rule like a year or so go past. So
man, it's been ridiculous this series. But yeah, you're right. That same thing, Miami Heat got off to that same little bumpy start that year, and I was rooting for LeBron because I hated the way the media was treating him.
Yeah,
I hated it. I rooted for LeBron the whole time he was in Miami. I hated the hate that he was getting from the media. I rooted for him.
I tell people this all the time. If Miami Heat LeBron existed for about say 12, 13 years, that would be a very, very legitimate case for like the greatest of all time. Like if you the accolade, the tangibles, and the athleticism and the skills he had on the Miami Heat.
Yeah,
it was so unique. It was something we probably had never really seen before. And the player it was incredible. And I was like, and then he left the Miami Heat, and he just like, what the fuck happened? Like he stopped playing off the.
But you know what? So we only seen the major flaws in LeBron's game because I remember him playing against Boston.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't tell how bad of a shooter he was.
Right.
I really couldn't because you know how scores are. Like, when you're a scorer, like you get a rhythm and you be hitting jump shots and stuff like that. Like I thought LeBron hit jump shots pretty good.
Right.
But Dallas showed us. Dallas really showed us that he couldn't shoot.
The Spurs series really showed as well.
Their
entire defensive strategy was to sag LeBron off and dare him to shoot.
Yeah.
That was it.
Yeah. And that was the first sign that we knew, oh, now this dude ain't like Jordan, right? So even if peak LeBron in Miami lasted for a while, he still would have been a lesser player than MJ.
Right, but I mean, So here's what I say, and I try not to be rude, but it would have been what we have right now is just flat out. I can always call it delusion and
Right.
embarrassment because this whole LeBron go case is just flat out embarrassing and cringy to watch. I think it would have been less cringy to say if it was in Miami. It would have been like an actual legitimate like points they could have made. He would have been making
Yeah.
more all defense, a lot more all defensive teams because he would have been actually playing defense like they forced him to do in Miami.
Right.
He forced them to run screens against out of screens in Miami. They forced him to post up in Miami. He was like well, this is the
Yeah.
LeBron we deserved.
Yeah.
But then he hated that shit. He complained about it. What's the Jerry? Not Jerry. Jesus, Pat Riley let him
Right.
know that he and Eric Spoelstra was going to have LeBron do this. He did not like it. Eventually, he left and went back to his Cavs. And during the second stint with the Cavs, he just became a lazy defender. He stopped posting up. Like, like, dude, like you the legitimate, and that's why when LeBron fans try to make the argument of why LeBron's the GOAT, 9 times out of 10, they start referencing stuff that happened in Miami as if it happened this entire
Right.
career. They'll
Right.
be like,
And
oh,
then they
well,
started talking about all time stats. Let me read these comments real quick. They piling up on me. Curtis said LeBron weakness is also free throw shooting. Too many times I've seen him shoot air balls from the foul line. Yep. I think this is Ronald. He said this is actually the guy who started this conversation. He need to join. He need to come in and join the link. Ronald, you need to click that link, man. Stop typing these questions up. Okay, so you agree at one point in time, Brian, and that's the first sign of a Brian fan. They call him Brian. You admit at one time Brian was complete. Cause somehow you said he was the SHIT on defense back in the middle of his prime. Yeah, LeBron was a complete defender, or he was complete on the defensive. He's never been complete on the offensive end.
Right.
On the defensive end, he was a complete player. He could guard some post players, like Brandon Bass when he was in Orlando was the same size as LeBron. Well, actually, LeBron's bigger. Brandon Bass was 6'6" and 230. LeBron was 6'9", 260. So when you get somebody like that can switch and guard a Brandon Bass in the post, or he can switch and guard a Draymond Green, that's great. But also you could take LeBron and he can guard Paul Pierce, or you can take LeBron and he can guard Ray Allen. Well, not Ray Allen. Ray Allen do too much running.
I think he
do too much running. But you know what I'm saying? But LeBron was like that.
Yeah.
On defense for about 4 years, 5 years maybe.
That's why he's making all them all defensive teams too.
Yeah. Yeah. But he quit because the stats.
I think he didn't get that. He was going for that defensive player of the year award and he didn't get it somewhere in like 2013. So he kind of got angry, just kind of gave up.
Yeah.
What I tell people, a lot of people don't know. So just to show people how crazy the MJ situation was. Now we already, like I said, he already was leading the league in scoring as a rookie, right? Points as a rookie, right? Obviously he missed the second year due to injury. Third year he leads the whole league in scoring, and he's coming second in steals because he's a defensive disruptor. But now people are saying, like, what about team defense? He, like, the year he was his second year in the league when he was out with injury, the Bulls end up having like some of the worst defenses in the league. The next year, MJ comes back, plays a full season. They have one of the best defenses in the league. Like, that's always impact on the defensive end. Then you're like, okay, what about man-to-man defense? 1988, he starts playing man-to-man defense while also still, at times doing help defense and still being a defensive disruptor. Like, he didn't stop doing one to do the other. He's like, I'm gonna do all these.
Yeah.
That's why he won that defensive player of the year award in 88. You're like, okay, well, he's scoring and he's dominating on defense, but he's not passing enough. So in 1989, he starts passing, like running the point. He came like 8th in assist. So he's scoring the most points, come 8th in assist, and still being a defensive disruptor and a dominant defender, like on a perimeter. It's just like, what? Yeah. It's just like, and then in 90, they're like, okay, well, triangle offense wants him to play off the ball now and then. So he's like, okay, so like half the game he'll be like playmaking, then the other half of the game he'll run off the ball. So it's like he has to keep doing it. He doesn't stop doing one to do the other. He has to keep, finding a way to balance that into his game.
Right. And I think that's the greatest. That last part, what you said, was the greatest testament to MJ, because we like you said, he had a stretch where he was playing point guard for the Bulls, and I want to say the year he averaged 37, he also averaged 7 assists, 7 rebounds, right? Mm-hmm. And then there was also a stretch where he played, I want to say 12 straight games at point guard another year,
Mm-hmm.
and he was actually averaging I want to say 35, 12, and 11 for a 12-game stretch, right? So like MJ at the point guard was a statistical cheat code.
Yeah, and he played a point guard in the '91 finals because he was going against Magic, and people was
Okay.
saying that Magic pass and he don't, so he passed a lot and he ended up after 31 and 11 assists. So,
See, so
well,
I mean, so like his point guard, his point like his point forward, or what do you want to call it? Um, that I mean, that was a statistical cheat code for MJ if he wanted to go the stat route, right?
yeah,
But being that Phil Jackson was the type of coach that he was, even though Michael probably was the best playmaker on the team,
mm-hmm.
Phil Jackson said, "I have to take you off the ball in the triangle."
Yes,
And what that did was it allowed Scottie Pippen to blossom into what he blossomed into.
yes,
Because if Michael Jordan would have had the ball and been the primary scorer, that would have left Scottie Pippen to just be a catch and shoot player
mm-hmm. And
or a slasher.
this is the point I tell people, specifically LeBron fans and Russell Westbrook fans. They're not understanding, or most superstars of this today's league. Only superstar I think understands this is Stephen Curry, and that may be due to the fact that his coach is Steve Kerr, who played on the Bulls,
Yep.
so maybe that's why. But most superstars are not understanding. They're putting up these great ass numbers, but eventually, when you do too much, it becomes easier for the defense to know what you're gonna do. It becomes easier for the defense to stop you
Yeah.
because you're playing in your own system. And so
Right.
now when you're messing up, you're now expecting your teammates to bail you out. But how are they going to bail you out? They've never been in a rhythm all season long.
Yeah, exactly. And the crazy thing about it is these are the main people that play like that. James Harden.
Yes.
Well, he don't play like that no more. But when he was with Houston, James Harden, Westbrook and OKC, LeBron and Luka, those four guys. And if you look at those four guys are the ones who are getting most of their triple doubles.
Yes.
Because you're automatically going to get the points because you're the primary scorer. You automatically go get the assist because you're the only one who's distributing.
Right.
And when you do that, it seems like every player that plays that style plays the least amount of defense, and they're just sagging. They're always guarding somebody off the ball that ain't gonna get the ball, and it just leaves them open for rebounds. Right.
Then they use their own role on offense, what they themselves choose to do, as a reason why they can't play defense.
As a reason why they don't play defense, right? And in that case, and all four of those players, every one of their fan bases say they don't have enough help.
Right.
They said Russ didn't have enough help when one year he had Melo and PG-13. One year he had Oladipo, and we didn't even people couldn't even tell how good he was until he left and made All-Star the next year after he left. Right. Luka, same thing. We got Tim Hardaway Jr., who was a baller, but you wouldn't know it because all he do is catch and shoot with Luka. And we didn't even know how good. Well, I did because I watched him in college, Brunson, until Luka went down, and we seen Brunson drop 39 and beat Utah and 31 the next game. Brunson is balling, but you would have never known that if they kept Luka just being ball dominant. And the same thing with James Harden in Houston. We thought his squad was trash. I mean, Eric Gordon is a baller.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, and remember people forget Kevin Love. Remember having a Kevin Love?
Yeah,
Kevin Love,
they said he was
before he was teaming up with LeBron, he was putting up 25 and 12 a game. And he led the league in rebounds. He was a top 3 rebounder in the entire league. Top 3 rebounder in the league, giving you 25 points a game. He teams up with LeBron. Now his numbers completely dropped to nothing. Everybody's like, oh, well, he's trash. And I'm like, not only was he putting up those numbers, he was a franchise player. He was a leader of a fucking team that people actually trying to build around. That's how big of a star he was. But now he plays with LeBron. He doesn't put up numbers. People like, oh, well, he was trash and all. Well, he didn't win anything when he played with LeBron. That's so before he played with LeBron, so he's trash or some shit. It's just like,
yeah, it's kind of hard to talk to their fan bases and because they can use the stats, and it's a good argument to make. Hey, look, he's averaging 28, 8 and 8, and it's kind of hard to argue those numbers, but when you're talking to somebody who know basketball, you're saying, okay, he got the ball all the time. We know why he's getting those
And
numbers. But you
that's even worse for LeBron, because the thing about LeBron is that what again, I'm just saying this is incredibly delusional. Like this argument about LeBron in an all around game. That's so silly. That's probably the silliest argument I've heard. First of all, just off of number, people say numbers don't tell the whole story. Just off of numbers, he has better numbers than him on average. So what are you talking like? Just a five basic statistics. MJ averages more points, steals, and blocks than LeBron, and LeBron averages more assists and rebounds. If you separate it, there's offensive and defensive rebounds. MJ averages more offensive rebounds than LeBron. So I mean, he plays more minutes than LeBron. He turns the ball over less. She's like, what? Like what are we like? Just the basic numbers or the extended numbers both show MJ does more on the court.
It does.
And then really you go, and that's just based off of numbers. You want to go by deeper stuff, like people aren't acknowledging. Like there's so many different variety of ways to score. And MJ has that, but towards LeBron by a long shot. Like
so here's a comment to try to combat my idea of why I think MJ is a GOAT. And this is I can't tell who this Facebook user is, but I guarantee you he don't think Kareem is the GOAT. He don't think Kareem's number 2 or number 3. But it's always funny to me when they use a guy in an argument that they wouldn't even vouch for.
Right.
So here he goes. I feel Kareem was just as good a defender as MJ. Led the league in blocks 4 times and is top 3 in blocks and rebounds. And blocks weren't a stat in his first 4 years.
Can I respond to this?
Yeah, go ahead.
I just want to remind y'all. Let me just to show y'all the MJ in his prime versus Kareem in his prime. People don't really remember. Think about Kareem. People don't necessarily remember his career in its like they don't remember the timeline of his career correctly, right? In the 1970s, when his offense was at its best, he was getting all defensive second teams consistently. Sometimes he wasn't even making an all defensive team at all. But the times he was getting all defensive second teams all throughout the 70s. Meaning they thought he was a second-rate defender in his prime. His all defensive first teams he started getting was in the 80s when his offense dropped and he was able to focus purely more on defense on the Showtime Lakers.
Okay.
MJ in his prime was doing both offensively and defense. He was leading the league in scoring and being all defensive first team. So
crazy,
right? So and like I said, and I've seen Kareem fans are in such denial. They're like literally trying to argue that Kareem was the leader of the Showtime Lakers. I've heard people try to say that. That's it's just not true. Magic is clearly it's called the Showtime Lakers because of Magic's playing style. I don't even.
Would you put Kareem at number 2 behind MJ all time?
Yeah. I mean, I'm struggling. I don't know. I mostly know who number 1 is. I sometimes think Kareem, then I think of his flaws, and I'm like, maybe this person, that person. Yeah, it's hard.
He said. Plus, there was no Defensive Player of the Year award until 1982.
I get that, but I don't have to use that. MJ has more all defensive first teams than Kareem.
Yeah,
and all defensive first teams always existed when Kareem played. So.
Yeah, that's true.
There you go.
All right, so you realize that the way you explained it means it can go both ways. If I shot more, I got more opportunity to miss. Okay, so this is when I was explaining to him when I was telling him I don't like the argument that MJ was, because somebody told me MJ was a horrible 3-point shooter, right? And I was like, well, he shot like 30 to 33, 34% for his career. That's average, right? So I said at the very least. Go ahead.
In his prime, he was shooting above the league average. If he
right,
right.
So he pointed to the first 4 years in the league when he was shooting 18%, and I was like, he averaged 1 3 a game, right? And when you got that much of a small margin of error, like if I'm only shooting 1 3, to shoot a high percentage, like that one opportunity I get to shoot a 3, I gotta make it. Or my percentage is gonna be in the dumps. Like, you get what I'm saying? Like if I miss 1 3 this game and then I shoot 1 3 next game and I miss it, that's 0%. Right. In order for me to get to 50%, that means I gotta make my next 2. But if I'm shooting 10 threes a game, I gotta I can miss 3 in a row, but if I hit 3 in a row, I'm back up on my percentage. So I was making the argument that shooting less threes has a smaller margin of error than
Mm-hmm.
shooting 10 threes in order to get a high percentage. So someone that shoots 10 threes a game that shoot 35% is less impressive to me than someone who's shooting 1 3 a game and he shoots 35%.
Right. So also, I just want to point out for it's people for something to be a weakness, so the opposition has to be able to use it against you, right? Free throw shooting
Okay.
is a weakness for Wilt Chamberlain. It's not because he just shoots. He not just because it's officially is a problem. It's because literally teams could foul him in the fourth quarter, and he would miss the shots. Like it's a
See,
weakness. There's
X, I
multiple
said the same thing.
even
I
in the
said I said weaknesses can be exploited.
right even in the 80s when MJ's 3 point shooting was low. There was multiple times in the playoffs where he had more scoring, more of a scoring load than usual. So he
Right.
decided to take more threes, and he was shooting fine. He was shooting efficiently. Like
Yeah.
just in the 87 first round, he was shooting like 40% from three because he started taking more threes because he couldn't keep up offensively with the Boston Celtics.
Yeah.
If he was doing his natural thing, so to take more three. There were just multiple times where they just needed him to take.
Yeah.
He had more of a scoring load when usually in most of his 40 and 50 point when he's averaging 40 or plus more points per game in the playoffs. Usually 9 times out of 10, you would see him taking more threes in those series
Yeah.
when he's shooting.
So
So
so here's Ronald again, man. Ronald just once I say something anything good about MJ, Ronald tries to go with these circle of questions, and it's funny because I don't even have to answer them because X Man is just destroying you, Ronald. That's why you need to join the panel. But I know you scared, that's why you just gonna keep typing. But here you go. He said, "Nah, I'm refuting complete. I agree he was a good defender. You saying he had no weaknesses. I tell you a weakness. What weakness did you tell me? Because switching off on Magic is not a weakness. That's not a weakness. Okay.
hold on.
Then you say, well, having a weakness doesn't mean you're not complete. Then tell me Brian wasn't complete because of weaknesses. Be consistent. Well, and this was another thing Ronald does all the time. He will say things and throw all these things out there that I never said, in hopes that I waste times talking in circles trying to explain to him I never said that, and then it turns into another debate on what I said, and I'm not gonna fall for it. But I will let this guy right here answer the question, and I appreciate it, Morris. He said what actually happened was Worthy was cooking Pip in the first half, and Phil switched Mike on Worthy and Pip on Magic. The bulk of Magic's triple double was in the second half of game one.
So
There you go.
okay, so just so y'all know, most people don't know. Despite popular belief, MJ actually did guard Magic for the majority of the 91 finals. He guarded
Right.
him in game one. He guarded him for the first half of game two. Then they put Pippen on him. That's what most people are remembering. Then in game three, they alternated constantly back and forth between MJ and Pippen. Then in the final two games, they just put MJ back on him.
Mm,
So MJ
yeah.
did guard him for the majority of the series, right?
It is always a bad sign when someone 38 or age 30 or under try
Mm-hmm.
to explain to me something about a Lakers series that happened in the 90s, which I know they didn't watch.
Right. It's not
It's
even that.
just weird.
It's available on YouTube. People can easily watch it and fix any misconception they choose to keep.
Yeah, but it's a
Even
difference to live through the moment
right,
versus going to YouTube and watching it. But you get what I'm saying? Because you live through
right,
the moment, you get to hear what they were saying on ESPN the next morning. You get to hear, like, I still remember coming in to basketball practice in middle school and seeing my two coaches talk about how Starks was guarding Jordan in the playoffs. Like, and they was telling us we want that same effort. Like, I still remember him telling me how Starks was running through screens of bigger guys. Horace Grant, like, he's running through them like a football player, and he was explaining it to us at practice. Like, you can't forget stuff like that, right? So to watch it and then hear everybody in the environment talk about it and react to it, it gives you a different feel and appreciation for actually
right.
what went down in history versus let me go YouTube this, or let me hear Shannon Sharp talk about it on ESPN. Like, you
Right.
you can't get the same feel for it. So
That's a
so
good point because
for
I didn't really live through that, so I didn't see the MJ era. But I like to point, but I like to point out, even if you don't see it, there's just a certain level of like common sense you have to have. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
not just for, I mean, for a specific series, that's a different conversation. But I mean, like in general, when you're having conversations about the greatest of all time, or analyzing a person's like game, you kind of have to use your common sense. You won't be able to completely grasp it, but you got to use common sense per se, versus
no
just
man.
assuming.
I'm way behind on these comments. I'm just getting to your comment. MJ became the GOAT by silencing all critics on what prevent him from being a GOAT and dominating in all departments of the game, winning accolades, offense. Yep, that's kind of what you said when you first got in here. I agree.
Right.
I agree. Mike also had 10 scoring titles. GOAT title is like an excellent credit score. It requires history, on time payments, diversity of credit lenders, debt to credit limit, or utilization rate. Yeah, man, I kind of get that, man, because and that's kind of what I was saying earlier about living through the moment, because the on time payments would be like timely performances, like when Michael Jordan showed up to play against the Blazers and they was comparing him to Clyde Drexler and saying, hey, they were both great two guards.
Right.
The only difference is Drexler can shoot it better and Jordan can't shoot. And then Jordan goes out and make it a timely performance in reaction to that and hit 6 threes in the finals, which was a record at the time for half, right?
Mhm.
And gave the famous shoulder shrug, like, hey man, I'm having an out-of-body experience, man. Don't talk about me not being able to shoot, because I'm gonna show you I can shoot. Like, those are timely performances that separate him from a lot of other people, because when it was time to show up for some people, they didn't show up.
Mhm.
So kind of like Kevin Durant in his Boston series, but that's a whole nother topic.
And I also want to point out that MJ, people forget MJ was considered the best finisher in the league, while also having the best mid range game in the league.
Facts.
So that's
And
it's difficult to be the best at two of those scoring things, because those are two, because one is heavily about shooting and one is heavily about like scoring down low. To be the
yeah,
best at both is really difficult. It is
yeah, because
virtually impossible.
what you got to be insane to be the best at driving to the rim and scoring, and then still go and work on your mid range enough to be the best at that. Like, like that's just like Shaquille O'Neal being that dominant at getting the ball in the low post and turning and dunking, but then that summer going and working on his Hakeem Olajuwon fadeaway.
Right. It's
You
crazy. You can't do right. He's just like, wait, how can you do
got,
both like that? Right.
yeah. Why would I do that when you can't stop me? You can't stop me from dunking on you. Why would I work on my my fadeaway?
And then to
Why
lead
would
the
I?
league, and then to do all that and score at the
Mm-hmm,
level that you
mm-hmm.
score, and still have time to
Yep.
be a defensive disruptor and a dominant team man-to-man defender and a great team defender, and to do all that individually and not let that stop you from winning championships. It's just like it's crazy.
Man, I'm getting all this coming. Man, I don't know why these people are scared to hit that link, man. Hit that link, especially somebody who disagree with me.
Who's
Hit
these
that link,
Facebook
man.
users? Why do you why do you just come with Facebook username? They don't got no
Yeah.
actual name.
Well, nah. So StreamYard, I guess to protect people's privacy,
Right.
um, you gotta actually go through an extra step to give them permission to show your name
I see.
when you're using Facebook. Like, they'll show YouTube, but for Facebook, they if you don't hit allow, then they'll just show you as Facebook user.
I look like
Um,
this guy's gonna get on the show.
who's that?
This Facebook user. Mhm.
Oh, the
And I
one on
get on the
I don't even see that comment yet. Well, whoever asks how to get on, hit the link that I just put in the description. Oh, not in the description, but in the comment section. Hit that link and join. And then everybody who's on Facebook, either do one or two things. Either jump on YouTube and watch it from YouTube so I can see who you are when you commenting, or uh exit and come back in and read the instruction when it say allow your name to be shown, so I can know who you are. Um, you do know the knock on Jordan was he can't win, just a numbers guy. till he learned to win. So because it took pressure for him to become that killer, it don't count. This must be Ronald. This is the type of questions he asks. He got so so.
It
Let me
wasn't.
answer that question first. I never said that, right? I was explaining to you that LeBron would pass up last second shots. So the media and a lot of us in the barbershop would say he don't have the killer instinct like Kobe and Jordan. That's what people said about him. What you're describing is Michael Jordan not being able to get past the Pistons without a couple of attempts. And then once he was able to get past them, then it was smooth sailing. But that's not the same thing as not having a killer instinct. Michael Jordan wasn't passing up no last shot.
Right.
Like I don't even know how you made that comparison. And I'm
And taking
and
game winners in college.
I'm glad you can hear my voice. He been taking them since college. That's facts. He just, I mean, that's just one thing he didn't do is pass up last second shots. So please don't make that comparison between LeBron passing up shots at the last second multiple times and Michael Jordan not being able to get past the Pistons without a couple of tries. That's not the same thing. He got
Also,
help from Kareem, but you still previously said the post game was a weakness. No, I didn't say he got help from Kareem. I said he got help from Hakeem. And yes, that was all for show because he really didn't get better at his post game. Hakeem tried to help him, but Hakeem tried to help Dwight too. Like I mean,
Kareem tried to
if you
help
got to go
Dwight.
to yeah, and Kevin McHale helped out Garnett. Everybody gets some help, but this is the thing. You are what you are. So if you got big shoulders like Karl Malone and your footwork is robotic and you're not as nimble on your feet like Hakeem or MJ or Kobe, and you don't have that footwork, I don't care how long you go to Hakeem, which he only went to Hakeem for one summer or actually one session. He probably worked with Hakeem for a week. That's not gonna do it. He did that to show us in the media that he was trying. I didn't say it worked. I said he went to go get help from Hakeem. I didn't say it worked. His low post game is still below average.
Right.
Bro, you picking what version of Bron you judging and picking Jordan's best year to say he complete? Man, can I get on the show? Yes, Ronald. Join the link. It's right there. I done put the link in there several times, Ronald. Please join the show. Please get in here so I can hear you explain this stuff.
So let's just to clear something up. Sandy can't win wasn't the only criticism MJ got. It just got louder over time because they were running out of arguments, individual arguments to use against him. Right. With
Hold,
MJ,
say it again.
so with MJ, the media was trying to. So if you go back to his last year in college, and it literally most people don't notice, but his last year in college because he was playing for Team USA.
Right,
He was in the Olympics and all that, and he had
right.
dominated in the Olympics. And his team, his coach Bob Knight, for the Olympic team, literally called him the greatest basketball player he was ever seen play of all time.
I remember that.
So that literally started that literally started the GOAT debate from college. So
Yeah,
when he got into the NBA, people were looking for every flaw to use against him, like they did for every other player who's in the GOAT conversation. But MJ, unlike most players, were so determined that he silenced critics on every single flaw he was doing.
yeah,
So like winning wasn't the only criticism he was trying to get. It's just that winning criticism got louder and louder because they were running out of individual arguments to use. They were running out of shooting arguments and you know in defense
yeah,
arguments and scoring arguments. They were running out of so many arguments. They had to keep yelling they got to a point where they basically had to make a section for individual greats like Oscar
yeah.
Robertson and Wilt and putting MJ in that and a section for people like Magic and Bird and Russell who are the winners, you know. And they say MJ can't be on that section. And that section is the better section, right?
Yeah,
But
they
MJ
didn't
did get
want they didn't want to relinquish that they didn't want to relinquish they didn't want to give Michael Jordan the credit. Like
thank you.
it wasn't easy for Bird and Magic to say Yeah, man, he's a man. Like they didn't really want to give it to him, even up to the Olympics. I mean, that came
Yeah,
out of Magnus and Bird own mouth. They said it got to the point where now we get to practice with this dude and see him and see how he plays and practice and intensity. And it got to the point where they had to say, man, it's his league and he better than all of us.
yeah. They were the
They had to
delaying.
admit it.
They were saying how long they could delay the inevitable. It's like people kind of knew Michael
Right,
Jordan was coming. They knew
right.
they saw
Mm-hmm.
from college. They knew who this guy was. They started seeing it and just seeing how dedicated he was to being the best of the best. They were just trying whatever they could to delay the inevitable, coming up with any
Yeah,
physical, any mental edge they could get, and trying to hammer on that mental edge.
yeah.
So,
Mm-hmm. Here's the last comment right here. The league wasn't as competitive as it is today. Why? What? Oh my god. What do you mean not as competitive? Like it is at least just as competitive, if not more.
how
Because
how how is it competitive to leave your team and try to stack odds in your favor? Which is what most.
that's the exact point I was about to make. It was so competitive back then. You couldn't call Bird and say, Bird, come join me if you Michael Jordan or Magic. You couldn't even call Reggie Miller and ask him to come join you. They would have looked at that as disrespect. They wanted to beat you badly. They hated each other guts. It was more competitive then.
And the 90s is super competitive because unlike any decade, the 90s, especially the early to mid 90s, was built up off of teams from the ground up. See,
Mm-hmm.
unlike in the 80s, they kind of had great team chemistry, but it was a lot of like it was kind of star studded in like with their teams, with the Showtime Lakers and the Celtics, and then kind of had a lot of stars
Mm-hmm.
on it. The 90s, you had teams building their team from the ground up, starting from the bottom, just working their way up to the finals, and then trying to
Yeah.
compete. So you literally had actual like you literally had actual like teams that focus purely on team chemistry and skills. That
Right.
was becoming a norm. So
So
it doesn't
so
get more competitive than that.
his first sentence was cap because the league was more competitive then. MJ never seen guards like today. Where
Well,
MJ
that's every
played
decade. Every decade has specifically unique players.
well,
That
right,
right.
but see this is the thing. MJ played against Kobe.
Yes.
MJ played against T Mac.
Mm-hmm.
MJ played against Ray Allen.
Mm-hmm.
MJ played against Mitch Richmond.
Mm-hmm. Gary
MJ
Payton.
played against Glenn Rice,
Yep.
Gary Payton, Reggie
Uh,
Miller,
Clyde Drexler.
uh, Clyde Drexler, Ron Harper before his knee injuries,
Magic.
uh, Magic, Penny Hardaway,
Yes.
Tim Hardaway.
Mm-hmm.
What do you mean he didn't play against guards like today? Are you serious? Are you serious? Steve Smith, Brian Shaw, the list goes on, and that's just the 90s. If you want to go back to the 80s,
Dennis
you
Johnson.
I mean you still got great players that played on the wing. You got James Worthy, you got what's my man that I can't remember all the names from the 80s, but it's a buttload of them. Like like it's ridiculous that for people really think that MJ stopped playing in the 80s or something. They forgetting all the 90s greats. Oh, Grant Hill, another guy I forgot to add. I mean, they forgetting all the 90s greats he played against and still dominated them. Plus, if we know that Kobe modeled his game 100% after MJ, and we know that MJ had the edge on Kobe athletically, he was faster, he was a little bit bigger, a little bit stronger, he jumped a little bit higher. His hands was bigger. Like so, Kobe was a lesser version of Mike, and Kobe destroyed the guards of today.
Right.
It's only right Jordan would destroy the guards of the day as well.
Right.
LeBron,
And that,
by great defender, he got covered by Stockton, Russell, Hornacek, Dan Marley, Kevin Johnson, Danny Ainge, Chambers, Elo. Watch the tape. Yeah,
Dan Marley.
it was only. We know Danny Marley was a great defender, but you don't have to. it's gonna be hard to explain that to a person who throws Dan Marley name out there and think just because he's a white guy that means he's not getting guarded by. Help me, because it's plenty of white guys that guarded LeBron. I mean, we seen Turkoglu lock him up when they beat them when Orlando put him out, right? We seen JJ Barrera and Jason Terry guard him. Like it ain't like people act like that Kawhi is guarding LeBron every game and every play, which is not true. LeBron's 6'9", 260. So unless you got another 6'9", 260 guy that's just as fast as LeBron to guard him, whatever you saying about MJ being guarded by whoever else, you can say about LeBron. I mean, he ain't got nobody this matching his physicality either that's guarding him. Right. But yeah, for you to think that he's playing against Utah and Phoenix, because you only name players from Utah and Phoenix, for you to think he's playing against Utah and Phoenix 82 games a season just lets me know you was really born in the 2000s.
But it just lets you. It's a sign of defeat, basically. It's kind of like it's like when people get lazy, so they have to say that. Like they'll say like, well, Bill Russell. They're trying to argue against Bill Russell's 11 rings. They'll just say, oh, we played in the 60s, so it doesn't count. Right. I'm sorry. Hold on. I'm sorry.
All right, my bad.
It's basically a sign of laziness. It's basically a sign of defeat. You know, it's basically you admitting that you don't have an argument. So you have to just say, okay, well, I have to downplay this. You know, they'll say I have to down. Yeah. I can't argue against MJ's scoring title, so I have to just say, oh, he wasn't being guarded by anybody. I can't downplay MJ's defensive accolades, so I have to say, oh, he wasn't guarding enough good people, so they don't count.
Yeah.
I can't guard MJ's ship, so okay, well the teams weren't good enough. You know, teams were weak. You know, it's just like it's a sign of defeat, basically. You know, you don't have an argument, so you have to just have to downplay everything, so it don't count.
I think you're right. I think that is what it is, man. I think that is what it is. But yeah, I mean, but I just wanted to get on here real quick and kind of give my criteria. I mean, I kind of explained it away, but I ain't really like give the real criteria. But basically, what my criteria is for determining the GOAT and how I determined it was MJ is the number one thing you must do. Like this has had to be done first before we even get to anything there. The number one thing you must do is establish yourself as the best player we ever seen. MJ did that. So anybody that comes after MJ that want to be in the conversation, they have to at least equal the player that MJ was, which means you have to be working on your game 100%. You can't take shortcuts and say, well, instead of me becoming a great shooter, let me just surround myself with great shooters.
Right.
You get what I'm saying? Like, I think a lot of people have unique shortcuts to get into the end result of getting in the GOAT conversation. And one of the shortcuts is let me team up with someone that can cover up the holes in my game. Mm-hmm. And also let me accumulate the most stats as possible, because it is in your best interest if you go on the stat route to play the type of game that LeBron, Westbrook, Luka, and Harden plays, because the stats that everyone is looking at, yes, at least a novice, is the points, rebounds, assists. Mm-hmm. But there's no stat on defense to tell me you're a great defender, right? Other than, unless you're a big man, of course, should block shots. But you can be a great defender like Bruce Bowen and not be getting blocks and steals. Like Bruce Bowen would just force you into tough shots. But we all recognize him as a great defender. But if someone like Westbrook or LeBron was doing that, we don't have a stat to go to point out that he's a great defender. So they would just divest from the defensive end and just go the stat route. And so what they in turn is doing is saying everyone else plays great defense on my team. I do the offensive thing, and at the same time, I need whatever I lack on offense. I need that as a teammate. So for Giannis, I can't shoot that well, so I have to have shooters on my team. I have to have Middleton. I have to have Drew Holiday. I have to have Grayson Allen. Even my center has to be a great shooter in Lopez. And it's the same thing Luka does. His center has to be a great shooter in Maxi Kleber. LeBron, his shooter in Big Z, Anthony Davis, Chris Bosh, Kevin Love. Like his big men have to be shooters. Everybody have to be shooters because he can't shoot.
Right.
What I would want to see is if you want to be in that conversation, I want you to develop your game the way Michael Jordan developed his game. So do that first, equal it, or surpass him like Kobe did.
Right.
And then let's get to your resume.
Right. But see the problem. The reason that's not going to happen is, or may not happen, we may not see it in our lifetime, is because the thing is that the media, as I pointed out, the media really wants a conversation. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So they're going to push people before they've even developed all that. They're gonna they've been trying to push LeBron since high school, calling him the chosen one and shit, right? They were trying to push Kobe at one point, I believe, in high school. Except Kobe did really work on his game. And plus I know Kobe probably, I think what determined Kobe to work on his game and was because, you know, that whole situation with the 2004 case, and the media wasn't on his side anymore after the Kobe Shaq Laker breakup and all that. So, you know, I think that motivated him to keep working hard and become better. Other players, since the Kobe situation, other players did not have that motivation. LeBron just did not have that motivation because he has, first of all, I don't know how it's allowed, how this is allowed, but literal players who are from Clutch Sports, his fucking company, are allowed on sports talk to vouch for him and vouch how great he is and downplay the competition. MJ's there.
Bro, did you hear the slip up that Shannon Sharp did about 4 years ago?
Mm-hmm. Did I hear the slip up?
Yeah.
No. It was a slip
up.
Oh
my God. So when I think Shannon's second year on the show with Skip, Stephen Jackson was on there, and one other female, I can't remember which one. And you know, at this point, Shannon Sharp and Nick Wright was going hard for LeBron, right?
Right.
Pause. And and the debate was coming up again, and Stephen Jackson was there. And toward the end of the conversation, Stephen Jackson was like, "Oh man, you know," he said to Shannon, "Hey, you know, I heard through the grapevine, I know why you going so hard for LeBron all of a sudden." And Shannon was laughing, and Skip was like, "What are you talking about?" And the female was like, "Oh, I heard this too. I think I know what it is too. You on the payroll." Right. And then Shannon was just like, "You didn't see that?"
No, but I'll tell you one thing I saw a couple of weeks ago. Skip Bayless just flat out said it, just like said it's a Clutch Sports. Shannon's like, you know, like, well, that's not relevant to the topic. Like, it's like Shannon, so really? It's an open secret. It's like, no, you're not even gonna have it anymore. We all pretty much know it. You know, he just casually brought that up while they were talking in the middle of a discussion about Go Debate.
So that is just crazy. I'm gonna see if I can find it, man.
That's great. That shouldn't even. How's that legal? How can a person be on your payroll and like be allowed to vouch for you specifically on live television in a supposedly objective sports debate?
Yeah, I mean, but yeah, they're beyond trying to be objective now, man. It's really about because if you're being objective, we say to get the clicks.
Right, because if you're going to be objective, you're just going to, because again, if we're being objective, there is no argument. Jesus is a goat, you know?
But yeah.
It's like one plus one equals two. It's like,
it'll be over real quick.
They've been trying to push the whole, remember Penny, people don't remember, you can go all the way back and see Penny Hardaway, Grant Hill, a lot of people were pushing them early on. In the future, they may take over the league and be the next MJ. And they've been doing that for a long. I mean, I remember even Shaq at one point, they thought he was going to work on his game more, develop a jump shot. And they was like, Shaq may have an opportunity to dominate so much that they might put him in the GOAT competition, but it didn't materialize. So, I mean, they were since the late 90s when MJ was actively playing, they were trying to push a bunch of new like people with a proper case from the jump. So it's
man. I gotta find it. I gotta find that video. I saved it. It was on my phone. But I saved it somewhere so I can get to it if I needed to. But my battery just died, man. But I got it saved somewhere. I'm gonna have to put you on to that, man. But yeah, they literally was just like, yeah, man, you get paid to say what you say, pretty much. And Shannon was just laughing, like just laughing, making a joke out of it, man. And we all think it, but
Yeah.
we never heard somebody almost validate it the
Right.
way it happened on national TV, man. But and remember, it's 2 deleted tweets by Nick Wright and Shannon. One because Shannon, he would say he was he was all about MJ for a minute, and then he was all about Kobe for a minute,
Mhm.
and then he switched to LeBron, right?
Mhm.
But he has a tweet saying MJ is the GOAT, right?
Mhm.
Prior to him joining Skip on the show. And the
Right.
same thing with Nick Wright. When Nick Wright was doing radio before he got on the show, he had a tweet out there saying, y'all crazy if y'all think LeBron is better than KD.
Right.
Right. But they both deleted those tweets. But you can still find it. People got it screenshotted and saved. You can still find it on Google somewhere.
There was some YouTube video that showed like even when they were on a sports debate, like when he was on the sports debate with Skip Bayless, he was arguing that at some point in the future LeBron may pass MJ, but still at MJ as the GOAT currently. But he kept and so Skip asked him directly, what is his criteria? He said, okay, once LeBron, he felt like LeBron's going to get like 4 or 5 chips, and then a few years from now, he's going to have 5 chips, he's going to have 5 MVPs, and all that. He said, oh, that would be enough. He's going to have blank and blank such and such defensive accolades. And that'd be enough. That never happened since the time he said that. He said that in like 2015,
Yeah, it did.
2015. That's never happened. And he's completely switched up his entire criteria and arguments at the end and just started gunning for LeBron. He went from saying that LeBron would start being the GOAT in the future after such and such happens, if such and such happens. None of that even came close to happening. Now he's just saying LeBron's the GOAT directly. Like none of that matched. Because of 2016 and all that. Like, like so, it's clear that it's a clear sign of desperation. As I think even the average LeBron fan knows that LeBron's not the GOAT. I think most people who pushing for LeBron to be the GOAT is doing it out of 2 specific things. One, LeBron, he's a very active. He talks about politics and social issues, and MJ was more so just he did stuff. He did his charity and stuff behind the scenes. He's not a talker. He leaves his public stuff for entertainment.
Right.
And just that number 2, I think most people are just they're probably just getting tired, of MJ being at the top. They're probably just, eventually people get tired. They put you on a pedestal. Then they get tired of you and they try to tear you down from that pedestal. They're getting tired of seeing all the marketing and all the videos of him, of his highlights, and so they're just like, okay, I want something fresh and new, so, and LeBron seemed, or at the time LeBron seems like that fresh and new person. And MJ fans were, may have been too aggressive, but they were trying to tell him that, it just seems disrespectful to compare, to have been comparing him to MJ when he's doing nothing skill wise that's comparable, when his resume isn't comparable. Like, what are we doing? So maybe MJ fans are being too hard. That only made help people drive to push LeBron even more, but it's just like, you got to understand, like, of course I'm going to be upset and unhappy when you're comparing someone who doesn't even have the resume or the skills anywhere near that to MJ, knowing that it doesn't match up. Like, I'm looking straight at it, and then you're seeing the way he even got the resume he has, seeing that he got the resume, his consistency, his numbers being so consistent because he stopped playing on one side of the ball to keep those consistent numbers. That he had to keep jumping teams 3 times just to get the fucking gift that he has. You know what I'm saying? It's, obviously I'm gonna look at that and be like, it's disrespectful to keep comparing him to Michael Jordan.
Yeah, it's not comparable.
People talk about his cumulative stats. When they both played 15 seasons, LeBron had played like over 100 more games and like hundreds of more minutes than MJ in the 15th season, because MJ got, MJ's retirements and his injuries, and LeBron still didn't pass MJ in his stats in his 15th year. So, at least it would have been impressive if he surpassed him in his 15th year and kept going, but he didn't even surpass him then.
That's facts. I still remember the game where he did pass me. I think it was his first year in LA, and he showed up in LA, and everyone knew that everybody on the team was on the trade block. Like, everybody already knew it.
It was a chant. Like, people were chanting LeBron would trade. Every time somebody would mess up, there was chants like LeBron would trade you.
Right. So it started out as a disaster. I mean, Magic quit shortly after that year. It was just a disaster. But I still remember that locker room seemed to not like him so much that when he passed MJ, I still remember it was a shot. I think it was an and one. He got knocked to the ground, and nobody from the team even showed up to help him up off the floor or congratulate him. It was just like, It
And
was
it's all
like
and when the 75th anniversary just recently happened, it happened in Cleveland. I think they purposely put it in Cleveland because you know it's where LeBron's at and where his hometown is. His own hometown cheered Michael Jordan like way louder than him in the NBA 75th.
standing ovation, man. They
Yeah,
look,
like
if it wasn't worse for LeBron fans for their argument for the NBA to all decide to announce Michael Jordan as the number one out of the top 75. I mean, they still got him number one. And I'm
right,
like, man, what? I mean, like everyone knows it's not even a debate. The fact that they've put so much effort in to forcing LeBron down our throat has gotten most people to just put him at number two, where he doesn't even fit at number two.
correct. That's correct. I'm so happy somebody was saying that.
He doesn't even fit at number two. I have Kareem two. I have Kobe three.
Mhm.
And then the debate starts at number four. Do you want to put Bird, Magic, Wilt, or LeBron? That's where
Right.
the debate starts at. And
Yeah, I've been arguing
I'm
between
okay
Magic
with
and
any
LeBron.
order. I'm okay with any order, but the debate starts at four.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I've been arguing between Magic and LeBron for a while. I've been going back and forth in my head with that.
Yeah.
Because, like I said, like Magic may not have been an elite defender like LeBron, but he was always a consistent. He was always
Mhm.
consistently did defense. He never played an elite level defense, but he never was lazy defensive end throughout his career.
Yeah.
So
And
that's where
Bird was a bad boy. You know this dude got
he was
like
a great team defender too. Bird was a
you know he
really
got
great
four
team defender.
MVPs in a row. Like imagine that. Imagine was it three or four?
Three MVPs in a row.
Three
Yes,
MVPs in a row, dude.
you know he actually Bird actually led the league in defensive win shares as a rookie. That's how that's how great his impact on the defensive end for his team. He was such a great team defender. He knew how
And
to
he was
get
a
his
great
team.
rebounder and
Yeah.
a great passer and a great
Yes.
shooter and a great scorer and great killer instinct and a
Mhm.
great leader. Like
Yeah.
Bird had it all except athleticism.
Yeah. Yeah.
He Bird had everything except athleticism.
Yeah. Yeah, I think if his man, I think like I said, I think if the simple fact of if he had athleticism, his man to man defense would have been better, and he would
Yeah,
have had more defensive accolades than he did.
yeah.
But no,
Bird was a
whatever
bad boy.
but he's like I said, he still had really good. He was really good team. Whatever he didn't have on a man to man defensive end, he made up for it with defensive disruptions and help side defense. That's why his team's defense was always amongst the best because he always if he saw a defensive opportunity, he came right in and got that defensive opportunity.
Yeah,
So
yeah, that's
yeah.
facts. But I'm gonna share this link. Well, yeah, I see you, Curtis 007, man. To say the league was not competitive is so disrespectful to the past greatest. It is, man. I mean, and when you look at the top 75, man, I mean, 50 of them are from the era you saying wasn't competitive.
And most Hall of Fame 90s also had the most Hall of Famers as well.
Yeah.
So,
I'm gonna share this link one more time. Uh, y'all can come in here and give me y'all thoughts real quick. I'm gonna end the stream in like 5 minutes though, but um, I'm gonna share it. Now, I mean, I don't know what else to say about it, man. Like,
it's
I kind of wanted to hear everybody else's criteria
yeah,
on what they using,
you know,
and
when you think about it, it's kind of sad, for LeBron, for LeBron's situation, because I've seen people constantly try to typecast MJ as just a scorer, which clearly shows
yeah,
they don't know much. They have not paid attention to his game because, like I said, he already is more all around than LeBron. But like I said, because I think the reason that started was because they knew LeBron was never going to catch MJ in
mm-hmm,
scoring because we already know
yeah,
MJ has way more scoring titles in the regular season and the playoffs. He scores way more 30, 40, 50, 60 point games in his career.
yeah,
He averages more points in the regular season and the playoffs. But it's crazy that he does that and still has time to get more offensive boards, still is way better off the ball, still has way more like scoring in his scoring repertoire than
yeah,
LeBron, and is still a better shooter on top of that because he's a way
right,
better mid range shooter and free throw shooter, and they're both. And I think LeBron's only a slightly better 3 point shooter. So it's like you can't even make a backup argument. You can't even say like, oh well, because he's doing more on the offensive end, that's why he can't score. No, MJ's doing more on the offensive end.
yeah,
You can't say because he can't.
and on the defensive end too.
Right, you can't like where in Kobe's case, you may be able to say he does a little bit more to his repertoire in the scoring end. but MJ has more scoring titles. You can't say that for LeBron. MJ has more scoring repertoire. You can't say, "Oh, MJ's a better scorer, but LeBron's a better shooter," because MJ's a better shooter too. It's just like, and then you take in the fact that MJ's a consistent defender for his career and more elite. It's like, what are we doing right now? What are we arguing? What is the argument?
Yeah, and then he plays 82 games a season. It's just
yes. LeBron played 82 games in his career once. In fact, and even if you want to take it to shortened, even in a shortened season, he didn't play all the games. He didn't play all the games in the shortened season. It was 2 times. He was like 2012, I think, and like 2020. He had 2 shortened seasons. He didn't play all full games there either.
you know the best kept secret when they was making all that fuss about Kawhi for load management his first year at the Clippers, and they would use LeBron as the standard of the guy who doesn't load manage. It's crazy because Cleveland was the ones who kind of started load managing their superstar. LeBron was load managing in Cleveland.
Yes, the guy who doesn't.
I still remember LeBron taking 2 weeks off. Now there's an article that you can find if you Google it, where they actually said LeBron quit on the team because he was having differences with David Blatt. He quit, and then when he came back, I want to say the next game they fired Blatt. You know, so maybe LeBron took it that leave of absence and got a phone call and was like, "Look, okay, we'll fire Blatt, just come back to the team." But supposedly he left the team out of frustration, and they just was like, just take a 2-week vacation. But in the middle of the season, he took 2 weeks, and then came back. They fired Blatt and hired Lou, and then he went on. But and I want to say in Miami he did the same thing. He took was it Miami?
I think it was the first time with the Cavs, maybe.
Yeah, with the Cavs when he flew to Miami, and they said he probably supposedly that's when he did his little steroid thing, but he did fly to Miami to see a doctor or whatever. But I don't know, weird stuff, man. He's taking some time off. He's load managed. He's did all that, man. And but people got amnesia and forgot all about that and started coming down on Kawhi so hard, making it seem like he was this bad superstar player for even taking time to let his knees heal. But
it's just crazy when LeBron, the main argument or the major argument that's least being used now for LeBron is longevity or his durability. Which is crazy because that wasn't even the argument at first. They just went through like 20 different arguments until they finally found one. They just kept throwing shit at the wall till something stuck. They finally found one that stuck because he'd been trying so desperately and so long to get MJ that he finally started putting up so many numbers. And so, but it's funny like that his number one argument depends on him not playing a full season, not playing an entire season in his entire career, and then literally giving up on a defensive end. Like I have to give up on half of the ball and not play an entire season just to be put up the consistent numbers and this great longevity. It's just like
that's all good points, man. But look like we ain't gonna get anybody else to come in here join us, man. Like and all this trash. I'm telling you, when you join this group, you go see all the LeBron fans in there. It's tons of them, but they never are brave enough to come on the live and tell me what they think about whatever topic is, right? And today I just wanted to, I didn't even start this conversation. I wanted to talk about the Boston and Brooklyn series tonight, and maybe some Memphis and Minnesota. But
who won?
Minnesota won. So it's 2-2. They won
that.
Oh, Celtics won. They up 3-0.
How did KD and Kyrie perform?
The same as last game.
He's officially exposed. He's officially exposed. I mean, I had been trying for the past like several years to like defend KD because he's one of my favorite players of this generation. Because I just liked, and I liked that performance he did in the Olympics. I think recently. When he helped them win the gold. But this is a recurrent thing for KD. I remember when Ron Artest had clamped him down. You remember when I think it was 2010 against the Lakers versus the OKC. Yeah, he had clamped down bad Ron Artest or or when he or when he blew a 3-1 lead to the Golden State Warriors, and and now just a little bit of physical defense is enough for he just shuts down. Again, he suddenly can't play at the level he usually plays. He suddenly has, and it's the worst part about it is like you should at least add something to your game. All this time playing professional basketball, you probably should have added more, something more offensively or defensively that he could have done. If scoring is not working, you got to do something else. So if you're scoring not working, do something else.
So I see it different. So,
right.
First of all, he's added plenty to his game. I mean, he's become a shot blocker. He's become. He's been a guy that you can put at the 5 and he can protect the rim. So I like him in that aspect on defense. He's not getting cooked on defense. Well, on his rotations against the Celtics this series have been pretty bad. He's been over helping and trying to leave Horford, and Horford's making him pay. Horford's hitting threes. So it's been a couple of times I didn't like his rotation or he over rotated on defense. So that's on the defensive end. On the offensive end, I mean, what else you want him to add to his game? He's got the post game. He's got the on ball. He's got the off ball.
I'm saying he probably should play make a little more. When
MJ, he's got that as well. Now, so there's no issue with his playmaking. This is the issue. What's going on with this Celtics series, and I want to even discuss what happened with the 3-1 lead because he played fine in that one. The Warriors just played better, and he was up 3-1 in that series. You get what I'm saying? So it ain't like what happened this series happened in that series, right? And then losing to Kobe and the Lakers. That was the people that end up winning the championship. That's the same thing as Michael Jordan losing to the Celtics when back in the day. So I say all that to say this. What's going on in this series with Boston is a couple of things. One, Boston is playing a type of physical basketball that I've never seen in the playoffs post the handshake era. Like the stuff that they're allowing are the things that we've seen on a regular basis in the playoffs in the 90s. Like this was 90s playoff basketball, right? That MJ had to play through. The hand checks, the pushing, the pulling, the fighting, like all those things are what they had to deal with in the 90s. They took that out of the game, and they took it out of the game so they can have more free flowing offense. They can have more scoring and all of this stuff. Now, KD grew up in the era without that.
Mm-hmm.
For you to all of a sudden turn that on for this series and allow a player like Kevin Durant to just get destroyed by it, don't matter who defends it. I just want you to think about this real quick.
Mm-hmm.
Kevin Durant has been regarded as one of the best offensive players we've seen in this league.
Mm-hmm.
If you leave Kevin Durant one-on-one with anybody, he's going to cook them, right?
Mm-hmm.
I want you to think about this for a reason. Grant Williams, Al Horford, Adam Thice, Marcus Smart, Jaylen Brown, and Jason Tatum. 6 guys all take turns guarding Kevin Durant. In what world can all 6 of them stay in front of him and force him to a bad shot without fouling him?
They couldn't.
They couldn't, except in this series when you say, we're going to allow you to foul Kevin Durant. You can do whatever you want to him. So when he's dribbling the ball, as soon as he tried to blow by a slower defender like Horford, Grant Williams, or Adam Thice, when he tries to blow by them, they've been instructed to put their hand on his stomach and impede his initial blow by. But they don't keep it there, right? Sometimes they do, sometimes they just do it initially to slow him down and then take it off and then body him up on his dribble. But they're also pushing him. Like they're ride his waist and push him. They're getting away with it. All those are fouls, right? So what has protected Kevin Durant and other players in that way? If someone can't guard you, you have to bring a hard double when I'm one-on-one with them, or you're gonna let me get this good shot, or you're gonna foul me and I'm going to the free throw line. The refs have took that option of going to the free throw line or getting fouled on a consistent basis. They're taking it out. That's not a right thing to do. Now, why are they doing it? Well, I think it's to send a message that we're not going to allow the Nets to represent and be a champion when y'all didn't even take the whole season serious. Like Kyrie sat the whole season out and just go show up at the end. If we allow that to advance and send a team like Boston, who's been locked in from day one, right? We're going to reward that team,
Right.
and not this team that seems to be going against the grain with the league. Kyrie haven't been friendly with the media, neither has KD. They're not media darlings, and they wasn't lockstep with the league when it came to the vaccination. You're not going to get rewarded for that.
That's a good point.
So hopefully this humbled the Nets, KD and Kyrie. Hopefully they get the point and say, all right, we got to play nice next season. We got to come in locked in. And they're really driving the point home that, look, man, you have to be lockstep with us or be against us. But if you're against us, I don't know how you're going to succeed in this league, because everyone needs the media to talk about them a certain way, because the media influence all the fans and the sheep and the sheeple. You know, they tell them what they need to think. So all the fans are going to go with the way the media is going. And then as far as your success is going, you can't be successful going against your employers, which is the NBA and the owners. Like, you know, you got to be in unison with them. So that's all it is. They getting a spanking, they getting a little punishment, they getting humbled. I think they get the picture. I really do think they get the picture.
I think it's interesting because I remember at one point so many people were telling me that handshaking wasn't nothing, like it wasn't impactful. That people like KD and Steph Curry, they would find a way around that. They would cook people because handshaking. Does this look like they cooking everybody? Does this look like
it makes a big difference? I mean, think about it. It's guards like Bobby Hurley who was good enough to play in this league, but it was just too physical for Bobby. He barely lasted. I mean, of course he had the accident, but he was trash when he was trying to play. But fast forward when you can't hand check no more, and Bobby Hurley 2.0 and Steve Nash could get 2 MVPs. Right. Steve Nash wouldn't have survived in no freaking 90s. I mean, come on, man. Like Mark Price is a better point guard than half of these dudes, probably more than half. Mark Price was amazing. John Stockton was amazing. Right. They played in a tougher league.
I think Mike D'Antoni was like the coach of the Suns when Steve Nash won his 2 MVPs.
Right.
And I think he was part of the commission board that changed the rules that helped Steve Nash win his 2 MVPs.
Oh wow.
Interesting. Conflict of interest there. So
interesting. But but that's my take on it. I don't think this is a hit on Kyrie or KD for the people, for his detractors and the people who really don't like Kyrie or KD. This is more ammo for them to use. But in all actuality, if you actually see what's going on, this has nothing to do with how good they are as players. This has everything to do with the referees making the decision that we're going to allow a certain type of play on Kevin Durant only, because on the other end of the court, they're trying to rough up Tatum and Brown, but they won't let them. The whistle's coming quick, right? Right. I mean, and they're trying to guard Brown and Tatum with smaller guards like Patty Mills, Kyrie Irving, and Steph Curry. So they got smaller guards on them who, if anybody's going to get the benefit of the doubt on being physical, give it to them small dudes, because they're getting destroyed trying to guard Brown. Now you telling the small dudes they can't even rough up Brown? Right. Like I seen Tatum on the elbow post up with Kyrie on his back, and the entry pass came in just a little bit off, and Kyrie made a play on it and got a steal. Now, he did get a little contact on Tatum's arm with that steal, but I've seen 2 times that amount of contact on Kevin Durant on his post entry passes with no call. So they're letting Tice, Grant, Williams, Horford, Brown, and Tatum and Marcus Smart rough KD up from the time he tries to get to the post. They're fighting him, and then even when the entry pass come in, they're allowing the maximum amount of reaching. Grant Williams is actually holding Kevin Durant around his back in the post, right?
Right.
During the initial fight, like you got to go back and watch this. During the initial fight, he's holding him sometimes with two, like he had a hand denying him from the back and holding his waist, and they're allowing it with not calling it. So Kevin Durant just has to play through that and figure it out. But the reason why his turnovers are so bad is because when someone is reaching, grabbing, and pulling and doing, and they're letting you do that, it's kind of hard to be 7 foot and dribble with how high you are, and the ball got to travel all the way to the, and then you letting somebody put their arm all in my. It's just crazy that they're allowing that stuff, and they don't allow it on the other end. Like they have to play honest defense on Tatum, but you can just get freaky with KD. It's just ridiculous, man.
Especially if you're not used to it. I don't, you know what I'm saying? They're not used to that. You know,
It ain't even the fact that he ain't used to it, because Kevin Durant done been up and down the playoffs. In the finals, 4 times. He's deep playoff runs as a leader of the team. That he's been like crazy playoffs. So he's been through playoff contact. This goes beyond playoff contact. I don't know what this is, but I have a guess on why they're allowing it.
Right.
But you just can't be too sure. But that's it, man. I'm already too long. I was long-winded, man. I'll catch y'all next time I go live. Make sure you go to the YouTube channel and subscribe. Everybody that's watching from Facebook, man, go to YouTube and subscribe and watch from YouTube from now on, so I can know who you are. Hit the thumb up, leave comments if you're watching this on the replay, and then we'll catch y'all next time. Peace.